Welcome to Nieuw Rechts, or for our English listeners, New Right. My name is Daniel de Liever, and today we're going to talk about the political situation in Ukraine. For this important topic, I have the pleasure today to talk to, and I hope I pronounce your name correctly, Oleksiy Goncharenko.
Goncharenko, yes.
Goncharenko, almost. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation.
For those that don't know you, let me give you a small introduction. You are a member of the Ukrainian Parliament for the European Solidarity Party, representing the city of Odessa, and additionally, you are a member of the Ukrainian delegation to the Parliamentary Assembly for the Council of Europe, or PACE, and you're the president of the Committee on Migration, Refugees, and Internally Displaced Persons.
Yes, exactly.
Before we go into the situation in Ukraine, which is a very loaded topic, of course, let's start with some your personal questions. Can you tell me a little bit about your background and how you actually became a politician as well?
I'm 44. I was born in Odessa, in Ukraine, and I live now in Odessa, and I represent Odessa region in the Ukrainian Parliament. Before being elected to the Parliament, I was the president of Odessa Regional Council. That's my background. I always was interested in politics and doing what I always wanted to do.
And how would you describe Odessa as a city for people maybe that have never been to Odessa?
Odessa is the third biggest city of Ukraine, after Kiev and Kharkiv. It's 1 million population. The biggest city, not on just south of Ukraine, but on the Black Sea shore in general. Not just in Ukraine, but the biggest city on the Black Sea shore, period. Because Istanbul, Turkey, is not on the Black Sea. It's a historical city, very beautiful. The center of the city is enlisted in UNESCO Heritage, World Heritage of UNESCO. And also Odessa is a very important seaport and one of the most important agricultural ports in the world. And in general, Ukraine is feeding, according to estimations of the United Nations, before Russian invasion, Ukraine 400 million people in the world will depend on farms from Ukrainian crops. And most of this export was done through Odessa ports.
Wow.
So it has very big geopolitical and strategic significance.
I can imagine. And how did you get into the political arena?
I was always interested in politics. When I was 21, I ran for the first time to city council, lost. Then when I was 25, I was elected to Odessa City Council. Then I was elected to Odessa Regional Council. Then I became the deputy president, first deputy president, and then president of Odessa Regional Council. And then I was elected to the parliament, where I served already for more than 10 years.
Wow, very interesting. And the European Solidarity Party, can you tell me what kind of party that is that you are a member of? For those that don't know,
it is a party which is led by former Ukrainian president Petro Poroshenko. He was the previous president before Mr. Zelensky was elected. The party is center-right spectrum. And we are number 2 today in the Ukrainian parliament, but far away from number 1, Mr. Zelensky. And we are opposition.
All right. Thank you. I think it's time to talk, of course, about the situation in Ukraine. Of course, as everyone is aware, on the 24th of February 2022, Russia invaded Ukraine, and I guess primarily for Ukraine, but also even for the entirety of Europe, this is where a lot, I guess, changed. This is like a historical event, you could say. Before we get specifically into the political questions, I want to hear what were your initial thoughts and like feelings when this happened on that day or in that first period on this invasion.
initial thoughts and feelings. First of all, the war of Russia against Ukraine continues already for more than 10 years. The war started in February 2014 with the annexation of Crimea. But yes, in February 2022, Russia started full-scale invasion. We all, the whole world for several months knew that Russia was preparing the attack. And American intelligence informed about this, and the United States were informing this publicly. And many people did not believe. Me personally, I also didn't think that Russia will attack, for example, Kiev. I thought that Russia will increase attacks in the eastern part of Ukraine and Donbass. But it was clear that they were going to escalate. How significantly we realized only in the morning of February 24, 2022. It was a real shock. It was the day which I will never forget. The morning, my wife called me. I was in Kiev. My family was in Odessa, and I was in Kiev for parliamentary meetings. And at 5 a.m., my wife called me. I woke up, and she said there were explosions in the city of Odessa, and I heard in Kiev too. It was clear that Russia started full-scale invasion. Parliament gathered for an extraordinary meeting in the morning. It was near 8 a.m. We adopted martial law. We announced general mobilization. And after this, it was a short meeting session. After this, one of my colleagues left Kiev to their constituencies, homes. But I decided, despite the fact that my family was in Odessa, but Odessa was far away for that moment from Russian forces. Kiev, we knew already that Russian columns approaching Kiev from Belarus, which is very close to Kiev. And I decided that I can't leave Kiev, and I joined territorial defense. And I was in Kiev all the time when Kiev was under Russian siege and Russian attack. And yeah, that was like this.
Vergeet de NOS en de NPO. Het is tijd voor Nieuw Rechts. De nieuwswebsite voor rechtsdenkend Nederland.
I can imagine how that must have been like. And of course, we're now 2 years, 2.5 years further. How has it in general impacted your life? What happened then until now?
From one point of view, it's completely different life. From another point of view, it's the same life. It was. I was still a member of the parliament. My family lives in my home city where we lived before. Thanks to Ukrainian army, Russians did not succeed to get to Odessa. They wanted, they tried, but they failed. I was lucky enough to survive this first month in Kiev when I was in territorial defense. A number of my friends killed, wounded. Many of people whom I know are displaced now and left there. Okay, and are displaced now, and that is a huge challenge. Every day we have missile attacks. So it's very hard, but life continues. Just when I'm speaking with you, my junior boy, he's 6 years old, entered the room and said that my wife came with a Christmas tree. So we will have Christmas tree, and we want to have as usual Christmas as possible.
I'm sorry to hear. I can imagine how hard these times must have been. I want to talk now with you a little bit more about the political situation. I want to start with you about there are many theories and reasons that people talk about why Russia actually I guess, did this invasion, this full-on invasion into Ukraine. What are your thoughts on why this happened in 2022?
Russia is imperialistic. Russia is revanchistic. Russia is the last colonial empire in Europe. And even in Ukraine, we did not clearly realize how different Russia is from European countries and from us. We lived with them in one country, in Soviet Union. I was born in 1980. And for 11 years, for example, I was living in the same country as Russians. It was, but my first language is Russian. So we speak the same language. We share common culture. But at the same time, we're very different. They are very imperialistic. They want to conquer, to expand. They don't care about human lives. So retrospectively, I understand that probably it was inevitable. Russia wants to attack. Ukraine is very important for them because of our resources, geographical position, and number of people. That's the way how this empire operates. When Chechnya, it's in Caucasus, North Caucasus, tried to live separately from them, they organized 2 wars against them and genocide of Chechen people. They killed 200,000 Chechens. It's 1 from 5, just to suppress them, including women, children, and so on. And now, unborn in that time of Chechen wars, Chechen boys, now they are fighting against Ukraine in Ukraine. In 2008, Russia annexed parts of Georgia. Again, they took these boys now, adult men, to attack Ukraine. The whole aim of attacking Ukraine is to conquer Ukraine and to take Ukrainian men, my sons, for example, to attack Poland, Romania, Baltic states, Kazakhstan, Czech Republic, to Germany, because for Putin, he says that the failure of Soviet Empire was the worst event of the 20th century. He wants to rebuild it. To remind you, the Soviet Union controls even half of Germany. So that is the aim of Russia. And Ukraine is just one of the steps in this direction.
How would you respond though? Because there is a lot of pushback on this, like especially in the Netherlands. I think that also in general this is what a lot of people believe. But I think we see more and more. We see a paradigm shift where people feel like yes, Putin and Russia wants Ukraine, but people don't find it very realistic anymore, I guess, that Russia also would want to invade other countries like Poland or Germany or Baltic states. How would you respond to people that are not as convinced that this is the actual goal?
I would ask them to remind when I think that Russia is going to invade Ukraine, they also did not believe. Many people were telling me, I was telling in peace, Russia is going to attack. And many of my colleagues and peace, also from Netherlands, were coming to me and saying, oh, it's impossible. You mean tanks? Tanks moving to European cities? Missiles attacking hospitals, maternity houses, schools? It's impossible. That's exactly what had happened. So if Russia attacked Ukraine, independent state of Ukraine, if Russia before this attacked Georgia, independent state of Georgia, why you think that Russia is going to stop on this? Well, what's the reason? Why? If you think that if the reason is that Ukraine was always part of Russia, that's because they just want to take back what they controlled. But again, I remind you, Russia 30 years ago controlled Poland, Romania, Czech Republic, from Germany. So why wouldn't they want to do this? In 1815, Russia took Paris.
Mhm.
In 1945, Berlin. I mean, different wars, but I'm telling you that if you think that
Mhm.
Russia is going to stop just because Ukraine was part of Soviet Union and, for example, Poland, but Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania were also part of Soviet Union, and
Mhm.
Poland was completely controlled by Soviet Union.
Mhm.
So why would you think that Russia would stop? Such countries as Russia, empires, they never stop themselves.
Mhm.
They only can be stopped.
I think it's a fair point. I think what people though would say is one of the things that people would counter this with is the fact that, of course, the whole thing about NATO, that Russia would feel potentially threatened by Ukraine becoming part of NATO, close to its borders. I'm not saying if I agree. I'm just saying this is what is often.
But let me
Yeah.
answer on this.
Yes. Yes.
Russia started aggression against Ukraine in
Yes.
2014.
Yes.
14. At that time, majority of Ukrainians were against joining NATO.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine wasn't candidate to NATO, wasn't on the way to join NATO, nothing,
Mm-hmm.
zero.
Mm-hmm.
So compare Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, members of NATO,
Mm-hmm.
on the border with Russia, and nothing bad happened. No, them attacked Russia, no, Russia attacked them.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine, not member of NATO,
Mm-hmm.
not coming to NATO, not attacking Russia in any way, and Russia attacked Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
So membership in NATO is not an escalating thing, but quite opposite, de-escalating thing. And Russia attacked Ukraine not because Ukraine tried to become member of NATO, because Ukraine didn't at that time, but
Mm-hmm.
just because Ukraine wasn't member of NATO. And
Mm-hmm.
Russia saw a possibility because of this to conquer Ukraine. That's all.
All right. Fair. Thank you for clearing that up. How do you look at the support of the West during this war for Ukraine?
First of all, I want to say thank you both to Netherlands and all other countries. First of all, the United States of America, the biggest supporter. European Union in general, also a huge supporter. So we're very thankful. Without this support, we would not survive.
Mm-hmm.
But from another point of view, the support we are receiving is just enough to survive, but not enough to completely stop Russia, not enough to win.
Mm-hmm.
That is a big problem. I think the West is still afraid of Russia to lose and Russia to fall apart. That's a big problem. That's something which we suffer from. So, and also the West. I just want you to realize. I don't know the number of. I don't know how many people are in Netherlands army. But I know, for example, how many people are in British army.
Mm-hmm.
So, for your understanding, so Russia now has officially 1.5 million people in army.
Mm-hmm.
Whole British army is less than 100,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And if not Ukraine, Russia would march throughout a big chunk of Europe almost without any resistance.
Mm-hmm.
That is the reality. And Europe appeared not to be prepared for the war. Europe demilitarized itself. Europe used for decades, Europe was creating its prosperity on cheap energy from Russia, on
Mm-hmm.
security protection from the United States,
Mm-hmm.
and on Chinese market and Chinese cheap labor force.
Mm-hmm.
This time ended. And Europe should prepare itself for big wars, for big changes. If not, Europe will be destroyed like it happened already twice during the world wars. So that is the reality. And it's not, by the way, just take a look. We're not speaking just about Russian aggression against Ukraine. Take a look what's happening on the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
Take a look at what's happening in the Red Sea. Take a look when President-elect Trump is saying that Canada is the 51st state of the United States or something like this. Or when he's saying that Panama Channel should be American again. Oh, that Greenland, he wants Greenland, part of Denmark, I want to remind you now. And
Mhm.
so on and so on. So what I mean, the world is in turbulence, huge turbulence. And
Mhm.
in this turbulence, Europe appeared to be not prepared.
Mhm.
But thanks to Ukrainian resistance, Europe gained and we won the time to prepare itself. So that's the time to prepare itself.
And what would you say to people that instead of trying to increase the conflict, that there also needs to be a point where you negotiate? I guess a lot of people are afraid, especially with Russia, of the nuclear threat, and they feel like if push comes to shove, at some point there needs to be some negotiation. Our foreign minister now for the first time also said that we need to push for negotiation with Russia in some form. How would you respond to that?
I would respond that we want peace more than anybody else in the world because we are dying every day. It's
Mm-hmm.
not, fortunately, people in Europe, but we are. You and not, we are also Europe, I mean, the European Union.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, so there is no sense to explain us that the peace is important.
Mm-hmm.
We know this better than anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But we, first of all, we want real peace, not a ceasefire. So are we ready for peace? Yes. Are we ready for negotiations? Yes. But we want a real peace. We don't want just to give to Putin some years to prepare himself for a new attack, to prepare
Mm-hmm.
better, and to completely destroy Ukraine after this. So we
Mm-hmm.
want the end of hostilities to be accompanied with security guarantees that
Mm-hmm.
will not allow Putin to attack us again. And
Mm-hmm.
all this will not happen again.
Mm-hmm.
That's the key. That's the question. The best guarantee is NATO membership.
Mm-hmm.
As I told you, the countries which are members of NATO, and for example, look, Sweden and Finland join NATO. Russia doesn't like it at all, but they can't do anything with this.
Mm-hmm.
So the best thing would be if Ukraine would join NATO. If not, we should look for some other guarantees, security guarantees, because without them, it will not be a peace.
Mm-hmm.
Putin doesn't want to stop.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is possible that President Trump can push him and the United States can push him to stop for some time.
Mm-hmm.
But believe me, the only thing for what Russia will do during this time will be preparation for next war.
Mm-hmm. And how hopeful are you about this peace coming along in maybe the next year?
I think there is a chance of end of hostilities in the beginning of the first half of next year. I think there is a real chance of this. President Trump is very clear that he wants to achieve this, and the United States has leverage on Russia to push them to this.
Mm-hmm.
But Ukraine, I already told you,
Mm-hmm.
we want peace.
Mm-hmm.
It should be as fair peace as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Also, don't forget about international law. What Russia did, they destroyed international law.
Mm-hmm.
And if international law will not be restored, it will mean that other countries in the world, other dictatorships, can decide why, if Russia can, why they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Why China can't attack Taiwan. Why the countries can't attack their neighbors to change the borders, and so on and so on. So just imagine in what world we will live if all of this will continue. One more thing, you mentioned Russia being a nuclear state and Russian nuclear blackmail. Yes, Russia is doing this all the time. But I want to remind you that Ukraine was a nuclear state too.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in 1994, exactly 30 years ago in December, we voluntarily gave up our nuclear weapons in exchange to security guarantees from the United States, United Kingdom, and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
It's very funny now about Russia. That's about any negotiations with Russia, any agreements with Russia. They cost nothing. They cost less than the paper on which they're signed. But United States and United Kingdom really, where are their guarantees? And what is the signal to the world for nuclear non-proliferation? If Ukraine would have a nukes, Russia would never attack us.
Mm-hmm.
We gave up our nukes, we are attacked, we are killed, part of our territory is occupied. That's the reality. So what's the signal to the world?
That's a good point, but we also see that the majority of countries that are non-Western, of course, they are neutral at best. And there are, of course, you see the power up of, let's say, BRICS, and you see a lot of countries in South America, in Africa, in Asia, that don't really want to bother much because they also want to, for example, have economic ties with Russia or China, which, of course, becoming an increasing ally of Russia and all of this. How do you then look at the majority of countries is not Europe and the United States, but it's the majority of the other countries, and they are becoming more powerful. We're going towards a multipolar world order, I guess, and it's not a matter if you will like it. Like you said yourself, things are changing. How do you look at this, that the fact that the majority of countries are not supporting Ukraine in this war?
Yeah, majority of countries are trying to be neutral. We can't say that they support Russia either.
Yes.
Russia is supported by Iran, by North Korea, by Belarus, which is in reality occupied by Russia. So who knows?
China.
China also, they're not supported openly, but I agree with you that they're supported not openly.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if Russia will continue its attack on Europe, for example, if Russia will attack Netherlands, what do you think? These countries will change that? I don't think
No.
so.
No.
They don't care about all of us in general,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. So there is an axis of dictatorships, North Korea, Iran, Russia, their proxies, China standing behind them, which is not democracy also.
Mm-hmm.
And there are other countries which live their own lives, Latin America, Africa, Asia, which are not very interested in, but they will be not interested in. They were neutral also in the time of the Second World War. They were neutral in the time of First World War. So, I mean, what does it tell us? If we're speaking about Europe, Europe can't be neutral to this because everything is happening on the European border.
Mm-hmm.
And this war can't. If Russia will succeed in Ukraine, it will have huge consequences for Europe. Maybe not so huge for Latin America, but again, maybe they are just mistaken in. I think that everybody in the world will benefit from international. One example: who is benefiting from the law in our usual life? All of us. We all benefit from the fact that the rules that
Mm-hmm.
when we are coming to the street, nobody can come and kill us, rape us, beat us. I think it's something we benefit all.
Yes.
The same is on the world stage. Even if when you are coming somewhere, even when you're sitting at home and then you hear somebody screaming on the streets that he or she is beaten or raped, yeah, you can be neutral. You can sit in your home apartment saying, oh, it's far away. What could I do? I will not go there. But one day it can be you screaming when you are raped.
Mm-hmm. It's a good point. I really hope, for the sake of Ukraine and for Europe, that this war can come to a lasting peace, like you said yourself. I think that all sane people in Europe believe that. Is there a last thing you would like for people to know in the Netherlands about this war?
I just want to thank people from the Netherlands for all support to Ukraine. And secondly, I just want to tell you, Ukraine now is fighting. Yes, we're fighting for ourselves, definitely. For our independence, freedom. But also we're fighting for our common values. And this attack is not just attack on Ukraine. It's attack on everybody, which is equally important for you in Netherlands and for us in Ukraine. Freedom, democracy, rule of law, and we need to protect it.
Thank you very much for your time and for this interview. Let's hope that if we look back at the end of next year, that things will be looking a lot better, looking back on 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Dankjewel.